Well, I'm Lucy Allan and I am the newly elected MP for Telford, which was one of the 5 seats that the Conservative Party won from Labour in England at the election in May. My background was as a chartered accountant originally with Price Waterhouse, working in business turnaround, and then subsequently as a local councillor and getting involved in various aspects of work within the health service and community organisations. Last week was, without doubt, the weirdest of my political life so far. It was never about my use of social media. It was only ever about activists unhappy they didn't get the MP they wanted, frustrated they didn't get the government they wanted, and angry that this government has had to implement tough decisions in order to keep this country on track. I know that most people don't hide behind creepy aliases or spend their time on Twitter trying to whip up a fury. These people don't represent Telford. These people are not Telford. I also know that I should not have engaged with these people on social media. Now, I've got a contract with Telford. It's on my website, lucyallan.com, and I'm going to go on delivering on that contract. And no amount of unhappy activists or Twitter sphere fury is going to get in the way.
Yeah, basically I sent out an email urging my local MP to vote against the airstrikes on Syria. I felt like it was from one of those ones they send out saying send an email to your MP, blah blah blah. So I went on that, did that. I used a pseudonym, which I do all the time online anyway. It's my Facebook profile, etc., under the name Rusty Shackelford. Yeah, that was the basic thing of it. And then, to be fair, I wrote a little bit extra on the end there, kind of having a bit of a cheeky dig at Lucy and the Conservative Party in general, to be honest. I got a call from one of my friends actually saying, "Oh, Lucy Allan's posted part of your email up on her Facebook." I went and had a look, and basically she'd eliminated all the stuff about Syria, taken all of that out, just left the little last bit where I was being a bit tongue-in-cheek, let's say, and added 3 words onto the end, "unless you die," because it ended with me saying there is no hope, in reference to some other stuff I'd said, and she had changed that to say there is no hope unless you die. The fact that she hasn't produced that email that says unless you die, whereas I've produced every communication I've ever had with her, and that's completely publicly available, that would lead me to believe that no, she's that she's being deceitful.
Right, well there's 2 instances where I asked Lucy or her secretary for an appointment at one of her surgeries. The first was after 2 or 3 emails I sent regarding the bombing of Syria, and I was basically asking her where she'd got the mandate to vote to bomb Syria, who had she spoken to as far as constituents to vote on our behalf. And just after Christmas, I think early on in the new year, I rang her secretary, her office, and requested an appointment at the January surgery. And to be fair, the secretary was fairly helpful. She did want to know what I wanted to talk to her about, and I was quite honest and open and said I wanted to discuss Syria. I understand that the email thing's going about, but that's small fry at the moment. The vote was fairly soon. I don't know if the vote was in January, I can't remember. I was trying to get an appointment before she actually voted. It turns out that there weren't any available appointments, so her secretary advised that I ring the following week to try and get an appointment in February, which I did. And again, she asked me why I wanted to speak to her, and I said it was concerning Syria and the emails and the kerfuffle, for want of a better word, surrounding the emails. Her secretary did her best to persuade me that my questions weren't as important as other constituent questions, and she was trying to hold slots open for other constituents. And so I asked, well, you know, I tried last month, as you know, I'm trying this month. I'd like to speak to her about these different points regarding the email, the fabrication, the lies, the bullying, and of course Syria, because I still wasn't sure, although she'd expressed on her website she consulted the residents of Telford. I didn't know anyone who had been consulted, so I just wanted to know where she came from that point. Her secretary then began to basically talk over me whilst I was trying to arrange an appointment. My questions weren't good enough. She did offer to give me the phone number of a Westminster secretary, and when I questioned that surely that's just another block, I had the phone put down on me. Obviously tried to call back to try and get this number, which she didn't give me, and it was just either answer machine or the phone was picked up and put straight down. So, more than slightly annoyed. The lack of media attention, the lack of basic attention from anyone in the area, that it just seemed a bit of a joke, and it did seem that it was the norm. What do you expect? It's a politician. She's going to be kept quiet, and that will be the end of it. So I just felt a bit voiceless, to be honest. And after being told, sorry, I did forget that after 3 letters to the Parliamentary Complaints Commission, I was told each successive time that my chance to sort of broach Lucy on this subject and make my voice heard would be when the votes were cast in the next election. And I think waiting 4+ years to solve this isn't by any means good enough at all. But it just makes a mockery of this democracy, that it doesn't seem there's nothing transparent. It's all cloak and daggers behind locked doors. She will make the decision, or they will make the decision, and we've just got to put up with it. But no, nothing since.
I emailed Lucy asking her where this second email was, because after watching the whole scenario unfold on Facebook, where she'd said, oh, I've received threats, here's an example, and she'd posted it. And then Rusty came on saying, well, I sent you that, but I didn't say those words, and then it all sort of unfolded, and then she deleted it. And then later in the day she said, oh, well, it was two emails, and I collated them into one as an example of the kind of abuse I get. So I just said, okay, well, can we see the second email? It'd been a long time, weeks, I think. I said, well, can we see it? Because unless you provide evidence, I've got no option but to not believe you, that you're lying. She replied saying that being in the public eye, she's used to getting abuse and mudslinging things, and she didn't actually answer the question at all. And then she said about how the taxpayer doesn't pay for her to be on Facebook, and she doesn't have to be on Facebook, and she doesn't have time to respond to these sorts of things. You can ask her, oh, did you have a nice day with the children at the school today, signing things, Lucy? Oh, I had a lovely day. Ask her a real question about the real world. No. And that she receives money. We're paying her to sit around voting for people to have their money taken away, voting to have people's families blown to bits. It makes me sick, to be honest. She just makes me sick.
I followed the Unless You Die story quite closely by picking it up on social media. I was as horrified as anybody that she had appeared to add the words "Unless You Die" herself to a constituent's email, giving the impression that that person was wishing her dead, or as many people have seen it, that that person was threatening her. And really all I wanted was some truth about the email and where those words "Unless You Die" actually came from. I was one of many people who went on her Facebook page on the 11th of December 15, and I simply asked her the question, why won't you deal with the question that many people are asking you, to make all of the criticism go away, and answer the simple question, why won't you publish the Unless You Die email? Because all people want from you is an explanation as to where those words came from. And I said to her, I think you should either publish that email or explain why you can't publish it. And if you can't do that, I believe you should stand down. On the 11th of December, there were so many people asking the same question that rather than answering the question, Lucy Allan decided to take down the comments that were being made, so that, and then she took down the Facebook account altogether for a period of time, so that in the end, in spite of so many people asking her the same question, she failed to come up with the answer. I decided that as a constituent, that I should be entitled to ask her the question by email. And so the following day, I sent her an email asking her the very same question I'd asked her on Facebook, which is, please explain why you won't publish this email, in which you say the words "Unless You Die" appear, because otherwise people will think that you made those words up yourself and that you have lied to everybody by saying that they came from a separate email. So I sent that email. She didn't respond straight away, so I sent her a polite reminder. She did then respond, but she failed to address my question. All she did was to refer to a statement that she had previously put on her website, which I had already seen. So I quickly pointed this out to her, that she hadn't in fact answered my question. Would she please address it, because it's a very important question. And I did press her for an answer. And on the 24th of December, I said, unless you give me an answer, I'm going to have to take this further. And by taking it further, I meant make a complaint to the parliamentary watchdog. She did then respond on the 24th of December, but what she did was send me a very confusing response. It seemed to conflict with a statement that she had made on her website, and also it was not clear to me still why she was not publishing this Unless You Die email. She did say that she would not answer any more questions about this matter until January, which I could quite understand, because it was Christmas, for goodness sake, so we all had to switch off for Christmas. But I left it until the 4th of January, and I then sent her another email just saying, could she please clarify a couple of points. Firstly, can she clear up this apparent inconsistency about the Unless You Die emails, because she was not making it clear that the words "Unless You Die" came from one separate email as opposed to more than one email. So I wanted that cleared up. And also, I asked her to confirm whether or not the police were stopping her from publishing the second email, or whether that was something that she was doing from her own choice. I sent that email on the 4th of January, very polite, wishing her a Happy New Year. Didn't get a response. I went on the Telford Conservatives Facebook page and just explained how frustrated I was getting with not getting an answer from Lucy Allan. They understood my concern, they were very polite, and they suggested that I contact Lucy Allan to request a surgery appointment. I thanked them, and I said I will give Lucy Allan a couple of more days to respond before I phone up for a surgery appointment. That very same evening, Lucy Allan sent me an email in response to mine, For some reason, she sent it to my work email address, whereas I had previously been corresponding with her using my personal email address. And I found that disturbing. But the content of her email was very, very shocking. She could have, if she didn't like the question I was asking, she could have just said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Phillips, I have no other comment to make on this matter. I feel I've said everything I need to say." But what she said was that I believe that your conduct over the last few weeks has amounted to stalking, or could be viewed as stalking. And my staff feel very uncomfortable about you contacting my Telford office and my Westminster office. And she ended her email by saying, "Any further contact with my office will be considered harassment." Now, I was shocked by this because I'd never actually phoned either of her offices. I'd never asked her for a surgery appointment. All I had done was to send her a few emails, and I had to persevere with those emails because she wasn't giving me a clear answer. And so she sent me this shocking email. It's almost as if she was, well, she was saying I was no longer able to contact her. Otherwise, she would view that as harassment. Although I was shocked, it did tell me that the reason why she was sending me that email was because she did not want to answer my question on the Unless You Die email. So it was conclusive proof to me, if I had any doubt at that point, that in my view there was no Unless You Die email because she did not want to answer the question. I was later comforted by the fact that Lucy Allan pulled out of a scheduled interview with BBC, and the reason that she pulled out of that interview was explained by BBC Politics Midlands, Sunday Politics Midlands. They went on Twitter and stated that the reason that Lucy Allan pulled out of the scheduled interview was because they could not agree to avoid questions on the Unless You Die email. So there was evidence to me that Lucy Allan was doing everything she could to avoid the question of why won't you publish this Unless You Die email. I then read that other constituents were asking the same question and Lucy Allan was not replying to them, that people were being refused surgery appointments. And so to me that was clear evidence that the Unless You Die email in fact does not exist. In fact, there is no evidence to support Lucy Allan's claim that the Unless You Die email does exist. The evidence is all to the contrary in the way that she presented it as one email, where she put the speech marks on the email that she changed drastically. And she did change that email drastically. She didn't just make subtle changes. She altered it substantially. And yet she denies doctoring that email, but she clearly did. So to me, the Unless You Die email does not exist. That's my view, which would mean that she's been lying to constituents, she's been lying to the media. And what hurts me as well is that the Conservative Party have stood by her. I have written to David Cameron in his capacity as leader of the Conservative Party, asking him to do something. And all I had back was a standard letter from his parliamentary assistant saying that I'll understand that he gets lots of letters every week, and but please note that my concerns have been seen and will be taken on board. So there was no action. I could see there was no action that was going to be taken. Clearly no action has been taken because Lucy Allan is still an MP. The one thing I would say is that the Telford Conservatives did apologise on behalf of the party when they saw what had happened, and their view was that Lucy Allan should have granted some surgery time to me. So it seems to me as if Lucy Allan is not following the wishes of the local Conservatives, which I think is also very, very serious. But really the Conservative Party at head office should take some action and say that this is not on, that you can't add Unless You Die to somebody's email and then give an answer that is not at all credible. So I really think something should be done, and that it's down to the Conservatives to take action.
In a controversy where you were alleged to have fabricated a death threat against you. What's your response to that? Do you have any regrets?
Well, that was totally unfounded, and what I regret most is that I haven't had the opportunity to make that case. So I would very much like to come on a programme and talk about the whole situation, because it's an extraordinary story and quite horrifying what actually happened.
That's the case, Lucy Allan. It's a deal. You can come on and we'll sort it out.
Thank you. I would like
thank you
the
very much.
opportunity to do
And we'll call you back as soon as we can. Thank you very much.